Hello, once again, everybody, to another filler art video. I'm, as always, your host, Offline Spider, and this week we are going to be adding Staraptor to our mural of Mons. Let's see how this goes. All right, so this week we are going to be adding Staraptor to our, I guess I've been calling this a mural, but it's more like a desktop background or something to that avail. I don't know. You guys let me know down below what you'd refer to this as. But this ended up being a relatively easy one as well. I already had the tree from last week's Rufflet video. So we kind of just needed to make a Staraptor to be able to poke his head out of it. Or her. Honestly, I don't remember which version of the sprite I ended up using, so... Oh, but I digress. Pretty simple line work, a lot of hard edges. It being a final staged evolution, they tend to do that. A lot of hard impacting lines because of wanting to showcase power in those final stages. Not just kind of trying to get the right proportions and everything like that right now. As you can probably tell, I'm gonna go through and clear it up because I wasn't quite happy with something. Oh, knowing me, it was probably just I put it on the wrong layer again. Which is fine. Now we're just gonna zoom in so that I can get a little bit more on the proper edge for this art, since I'm gonna be adding my little details in as well while we're going through here. And right here is me kind of determining, like, oh, I wanted this to have a little bit more of this kind of curve or this kind of curve. So I'm trying to determine, like, where the placement would be eventually. But then from there, we can kind of go over the top-most portion of the head. I don't want to admit how many times I end up trying to make beaks in some of these videos. Or even some of these separation lines. But luckily enough, Staraptor is kind of easy, especially if you're doing a side profile. It's more or less symmetric, so you can kind of just play off of that and find your dimensions that way. And then from here, I was trying to make sure I was getting the star portion of Staraptor's chest figured out proper. So that brings us in there. This here to kind of accent a little better our swoopiness of the plumage. Yeah, the plumage. And then doing our little edits that we need to for the beak. As was pretty noticeable, I had already put in a nostril point, but with the beak having that dark tip like that, it almost just made more sense to just not have one visible. Especially since with a lot of birds, that nostril is going to be closer towards the front of the beak anyway. Not quite at the tip, obviously, but, you know, about mid-range. Now here, we are adding that secondary chest plumage. And also adding about where its body will be peeking out of that tree. Along with making sure we're having all of our little detail lines if we need them. A lot of this one ended up being just kind of look at the reference, make sure it's right. Look at the reference, make sure it's right. Such a highly beloved Pokemon such as Staraptor from the Sinnoh region. I just didn't feel like messing any of it up if I could avoid it. Oh, but we're gonna go through here. We're gonna add some of that red to the plumage first off. Interestingly, I find myself even just rewatching this, kind of just getting distracted as I'm going through and drawing in and getting the coloring done. I really liked how this turned out, despite it being kind of a smaller piece overall. And overall, I really like Staraptor as a Pokemon. It commands power to a degree, despite just being the final stage of a beginning route mon. Which isn't something you can say with like a lot of them. Just look at Pidove and Unpheasant, or right, most people only really got Hoot Hoot and Noctowl because they needed an early flying type for Bugsy's gym. Not to knock it if you like those guys, because let's face it, my favorite Pokemon is Ampharos. Just, I feel like a lot of us in the community can admit when it comes to battling, they're not the top pick for most people. Oh, but that being said, I suppose Staraptor probably isn't either. Flying type in its most notable move when I was growing up, at least, was close combat. So, how much sense does that make? The bird that punches. And now we're gonna go through here with that kind of warm gray color. Get the top of its head all taken care of and situated in color. Double check our white areas. Make sure that we have everything taken care of that we needed to take care of. I do believe I went through and I was trying to get the white that is specifically on Staraptor's body just in case it was a different tone. And it ended up being just ever so slightly different than the base white that's used on my imaging software. So I went through on a different layer and just went through real quick and cleaned up those white areas below the rest of the colors. This way, when I eventually went to move the image into the tree, yeah, I would have an easier time with it rather than having to go back and color in underneath it over top of the greens. Which is also part of what I'm doing here too, is I just want that edge along that black line to already have that greenish hue about it, so that when I do put the Staraptor over there, it's not looking uneven. And then so inside baseball moment here. Anytime that my cursor is off screen for any extended period, usually it's just me kind of messing around with settings on stuff because I'm having trouble remembering what certain things do after so many years of not having used this software. I've only actually been reusing the software since I started making YouTube content back in December of 2023. So it's just nice to see about how far we've come since then. Oh, but here we go, folks. The grand finale of it all. The point where I go and reposition Staraptor and try to get it looking all nice and pretty in that tree, so that all of you can look at it and be like, dang, This guy really knows how to draw birds. Oh, Lord knows I draw enough of them. But alrighty, folks, with that, I will say that this week's video is finished. Thank you all for watching. If you liked the video, hit the like button down below. If you'd like to keep up to date with my future content, subscribe and hit the notification bell. And that'll do it. Bye.